Hey guys, William Murphy here, and today we're going to be looking at potential head gasket problems. I got the car running after a number of years off the road, and quite frankly, it's running like a bag of nails. It's very loud, there's a lot of back pressure in the exhaust, and the suction on the air filter is a lot more extreme than a typical Mini. With that all added in, I'm going to put my finger into the radiator cap. It comes out like some real greeny, you can see that at all, like a browny greenish goo. It doesn't really smell of anything other than water and antifreeze. I've got some on my nose now. So I can just see the colour of it sort of here. So it could just be dirty water and antifreeze mix, or it could be oil getting into that water just to contaminate it. So I've taken out the spark plug and I've attached this compression gauge. I've disconnected the coil, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank the engine over a few times and watch the trigger go up, and the ideal space for it to be is in the green here. Anything below is bad. Anything that reaches there and then sort of slowly declines, that's bad as well. Basically it means there's a leak within that chamber. So I'll zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to put my arm around here and just crank the engine. That's all that's needed. It's showing just over 11, so it's just showing just over 11 bar, which is really good. And all you've got to do then is just press this button here. That releases the pressure from that chamber, or that valve, or that just releases the pressure from the cylinder. Okay, perfect. You're showing just over 11 bar on the cylinder number 4. So what it means now is I can just press this button on the side here, and that will release the pressure from that cylinder. I can then continue the process through the cylinders number 3, number 2 and number 1, and hopefully I'll find that all be around this. If they're all in the green and all around a sort of similar mark, there's no decline at any of the piston gauges, or there's no loss of pressure, then we are on for a good test. So I've got my spark plug and a spark plug socket. It's very important you use these type of sockets because they've got inside a rubber seal to hold the porcelain in place, so there's no chance of any movement side to side to snap them. When you're doing these up, you just want to try and make sure there's a bit of pressure, a bit of resistance there. You don't want to really go too much of it because you can snap the spark plug and you can also strip the thread in the cylinder head. So a bit of resistance, and that's good. What you also need to make sure of is that you don't do them too tight, so that if you happen to break down and you need to check to see if you've got fuel or spark, you can't take the spark plugs out. So, very sooty. So I take my tool again. Wind that back in, and again, just make sure this just goes hand tight so you can see the gauge. Okay, just over 11 bar, perfect. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is eliminate any cylinder head issues. If all of the pistons and all of the cylinder bores are showing at 11 bar, then the issue will be something to do with maybe timing, spark gap, fueling issues. The car is running, it's just running very, very rough. So I'm going to go and do a complete overhaul because the car has been sat for so long. I've made sure there's oil in the engine, I've made sure there's water in the radiator, and now it's just a case of just going through and just checking everything over because it's been sat for so long. Nip that. Done. Number 2. So I'm going to go through, obviously in another video, and go through spark gaps. I'm going to go through timing, and then go through adjustment on the valves. Just try and give you a great insight of actually what's what. There is some really good videos out there, and a massive shout out to Stevenson Motor Co. I think they're in Canada. They have a real good breakdown of each component. They show exactly how to do step-by-step timing, so that's a really good video to go check out. So if you haven't seen it already, go and check out them guys. I'll leave a link in the description below. But I'm not saying there's not other people that are really good, just them ones there, they really stuck out for me. And the videography, spot on. So today I'm repping my retro L to B shirt, 2007, that was the first one I ever went on. Still fits. What I will do as well, once it's finally up and running and drivable, I will take you on a grand tour of Rusty. The Mini's called Rusty because when I bought it, it was extremely rusty. There's some rust coming through again now, so it's kind of appropriate really. Right, next one. That one is at 12 bar. So far so good. One more cylinder to go. Typically on these Minis, they tend to go between 2 and 3. But it's not unusual for them to go anywhere else. The reason they go between 2 and 3 is because the actual gap between the two pistons is probably the smallest amount there. On the topic of giving people shout outs, I've been really inspired to get this Mini going again thanks to certain people on the internet. There are 2 Minis to mention, but Mini Matt TV, I went to college with Matt, wasn't in the same class or anything, but really nice guy, and he is restoring an orange Mini. No idea what model it is, I'm afraid, but he's welding at the moment. Just bought some lovely new parts. I'm not sure if I can say what they are yet because he put a picture up on the internet yesterday about guess what's in the box. I know. There's also Total Car Reviews. Tom over there has done pretty much a full restoration of his car, and I believe he has now finished that, and that is looking absolutely spot on. The interior would look phenomenal in this car. Just saying, you're not that far away. There is, as I say, 2 people to mention, but if you ever get stuck for any tips on your cars or your classic Minis particularly, then check these guys out, because maybe the things that you're trying, you haven't even considered the things that they are or have done. They got some real good step-by-step guides of what they're doing, and hopefully you can all learn something. And hopefully in this channel as well, you'll learn something, and we'll be able to get this car and the one back there on the road as soon as possible. Last one. Bugger. Okay, I found the culprit. Cylinder head off. I think I'm gonna have to do a bit of an engine rebuild here. So let's have a look what's going on. So as you see, okay, so as you saw, the gauge on all the others was going around to maybe 10 to 11 bar. This one here, absolutely nothing. So it suggests that there's absolutely zero compression within piston number 1. It could be through a number of reasons. You've got your valves on the top, your inlet and exhaust valve. So it could be to do with what's on the top of the engine. So under the rocker cover you have valves which rock up and down. Sometimes you get a worn seat, and actually if you think about your valve and it has a nice tight compression around it, as it's going up and down, it looks terrible, you're going to end up getting wear in the valve seat. If it's worn through enough, then you get a bit of a gap, and actually then it gets a bit sloppy inside there, and then when the valve is closed, the air can still leak through. Now inside these pistons, inside these cylinders, you need to have fantastic compression to even run the engine. Now it's running, but it does actually sound like it's running on 3 cylinders. A way to test it would be to run with all 4 HT leads in. As it's running, pull the plug off, and it probably won't make any change because there's no compression within that cylinder. I'm hoping it's not due to anything other than a dodgy piston. No, I'm hoping it's not dodgy piston. So I'm hoping it's nothing more than just a head gasket, because the head gasket is relatively easy on these classic cars. It's a case of taking the carburetor off, taking the inlet and exhaust manifolds off, taking the radiator top mount off, taking the thermostat off, taking the water hose tap off, your spark plugs off and your coil, and then pretty much once your rocker cover and your valves are off, it unbolts and lifts straight off. Of all the cars I've done head gaskets on, the Mini is the one that I'd actually happily put myself forward to do again. But unfortunately you don't really know what's going on until you can take the cylinder head off to take a look. The engine here is looking really tatty, and I would like to spruce it up a little bit because other Minis I've looked the dog's bollocks, and unfortunately this one here, outside looks great, and engine bay wise it's a bit more to be desired for, unfortunately, but that's why it's not running properly. Hopefully we can get this sorted soon as possible. I need to try and weigh up the options about what's the best thing to do for this particular Mini, because it's not going on the road anytime soon. I'm aiming for July 2018 because that's when the car becomes tax and MOT exempt, so I can take a look and see whether it's a case of taking the engine out and actually replacing a few other bits and pieces whilst I'm there, or just doing it in situ and getting a quick fix and back on the road, or back on the go again. It's a shame, but at least we now know what the reason behind it will be, or where the fault is to be directed into number 1 cylinder, and how to use these compression gauges and how to test for your head gasket issue or compression issue. Can you do this test at home without any tools? No. You're going to need a basic sort of amount of tools, ideally a spark plug socket to fit your spark plugs, an extension bar so you don't catch any of the HT leads, a ratchet or a wrench if you're in America, and that's just to sort of help you move back and forward a little bit easier rather than having to go all the way around, and makes it a little bit easier for yourselves. That's all you need to take the spark plugs out. The HT leads come off by hand if you just pop them off. And then you need, well, this one here is a Gunson Compression high gauge. Now it is compatible for the classic Mini, just with the standard thing, but there's also a bigger fitment should you have a wider spark plug. Now this isn't just for classic cars, this is for cars across the board. all you need to do to remember as you're going to have a go at doing this yourself is disconnect your spark so you don't have any issues with getting electrocuted. And where possible on maybe newer engines, disconnect your fuel as well. So typically you'll have like a plug to your fuel pump, or sometimes even get a fuse to take out. Classic cars are so simple. I mean, you don't even need to disconnect the fuel because the amount of fuel coming through is minimal, and then when you connect it all back up, it will just burn off anyway. Try to put your wiring that you're taking off and keep it in a place where you're going to remember where it goes back on, and that you have to put it back on in the same place. If you take a positive off and you put it on a negative, you take a negative off and take it on a positive, if you have electronic ignition, you could end up destroying that unit. So it's best practice to take things off, make a note of taking things off, or just try and talk yourself through, right? So for me personally, I've taken off 4 HT leads, 4 spark plugs, and the negative and the 2 positive wires for the coil because I'm running electronic ignition. The 2 positives are back on the positive, the negative is back on the negative, the spark plugs are all tight, and the HT leads are all clipped on. The great thing with spark plugs or HT leads is the fact that as you push them on, they tend to sort of click into place. So that is complete. The test is done. The results were terrible in my favour, but it shows you how to use the compression tool. It shows you how to test your compression in your cylinders, and it shows you obviously where to pinpoint any issues going further down the line. That's it from me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you can, click the like button. It really means a lot. Please comment below anything else you'd like me to review or to go through and try and break down and simplify for you guys. And if you can, please hit the subscribe button because I'd love to build this channel up to get my message wide and far. Take it easy, guys. I'll see you next time.